you know, when a massive tech company releases a new product or updates their software, it usually feels like they're just, I don't know, adding a new wing to an existing house.
Right, yeah. You can see it, you can measure it, it all makes sense.
Exactly. But when you look at what Microsoft is doing right now, it feels less like a home renovation and more like, well, they're trying to quietly replace the Earth's tectonic plates while we're all still living on them.
That is a very accurate and slightly terrifying way to look at it. I mean, the foundation of how we interact with technology, how we buy it, and even how we conceptualize computing power, it's fundamentally cracking and reforming beneath our feet.
Welcome to the deep dive. We've got a really fascinating stack of sources for you today. We're unpacking Microsoft's Q3 2026 earnings call, their official financial press release, and some very revealing market analysis from CNBC.
Yeah, it's a dense stack of information this time.
It really is.
Yeah.
So our mission today is to decode the dense financial jargon and show you why their historic, mind-boggling $190 billion infrastructure bet is going to change the software you use every single day. We're really looking at the transition into what they are calling the agentic AI era.
And it is a massive structural transition. The numbers we are about to go through, they reflect a company that is essentially running two different realities at the exact same time.
Right, like maintaining a legacy empire while aggressively funding an entirely new paradigm.
Exactly.
Before we jump into those realities, just a quick reminder. All the information and analysis we discuss here is just to help everyone better understand the market and is not investment advice. Investing involves risk, so be sure to do your homework or consult a professional financial advisor before entering the market. Okay, let's unpack this. We have to start by looking at the scoreboard because the baseline numbers are staggering.
They really are. I mean, overall revenue hit $82.9 billion for the quarter. Yeah, that is up 18% year over year. Earnings per share came in at $4.27, which comfortably beat Wall Street's expectations. And their net income was $31.8 billion.
In a single 3-month window, just to put that in perspective for you, there are legacy Fortune 500 companies that don't generate that kind of profit in a decade.
Oh, absolutely.
And the heavyweight champion driving all of this is the Microsoft Cloud segment, right, which reached $54.5 billion, up 29%. But here is where it gets really interesting. The standout metric from this entire report is their artificial intelligence business.
Yeah, this is the number everyone was watching.
Right. It has surpassed a $37 billion annual revenue run rate. That represents 123% year-over-year growth.
Yeah.
So let's clarify that term. ARR, or annual revenue run rate.
It's a really crucial distinction from traditional sales metrics. When Satya Nadella highlights a $37 billion ARR, he is sending a very specific signal to Wall Street and the rest of the tech industry.
Let me try to frame this for the listener. If you look at older enterprise software models, a company might sign a massive, multi-million-dollar contract for a 3-year license, and that revenue gets recognized in chunks.
Right, the old boxed software model.
Exactly. But ARR is more like looking at a predictable, usage-based cloud model or a massive locked-in SaaS subscription. It's almost like a monthly streaming subscription. It takes the recurring revenue from the current month and projects it out over the next 12 months.
Yeah, and investors absolutely love ARR because it strips out the one-off anomalies. It's a measure of guaranteed baseline momentum.
Okay, so he's basically telling the market this isn't a pilot program anymore.
Exactly. He's saying this is a highly reliable, massive engine of our recurring revenue. It includes clients running AI services on their Azure cloud, model builders using their infrastructure, and the direct sales of their own first-party AI tools.
I have to push back here, though. I mean, we have seen tech hype cycles before.
Oh, definitely. Web3, the metaverse.
Yeah, VR headsets. The numbers always look huge initially because of corporate FOMO, fear of missing out. So is this $37 billion just executive hype?
It's a fair question.
Like, are companies actually using these AI tools daily? Or is this just chief technology officers buying thousands of licenses so they can tell their board of directors they have an AI strategy?
Well, when you look at the raw data they released, it paints a picture of habitual integrated usage rather than just shelfware. They announced they now have over 20 million paid seats for Microsoft 365 Copilot.
Wait, 20 million?
Yeah, and that is up from 15 million just back in January.
5 million new paid enterprise seats in a matter of months. That is aggressive scaling.
It really is. And we are talking about massive enterprise rollouts. I mean, Accenture alone has over 740,000 seats.
That's practically their entire global workforce, isn't it?
pretty much. And companies like Bayer, Johnson & Johnson, Mercedes, they're all committing to 90,000 seats or more. But the most telling metric Nadella shared wasn't the seat count. It was the engagement intensity.
Okay, what does that mean?
He noted that weekly engagement with Copilot is now at the exact same level as Outlook.
Wait, pause for a second. People are using an AI assistant as routinely as they check their corporate email.
That is what the telemetry shows. It has become a daily habit. Think about how fundamental email is to corporate communication.
I mean, it's the backbone of everything.
Right. So if an AI tool has mirrored that exact frequency of use, it tells us this technology has crossed the chasm. It's moved from being a fun novelty where you generate a poem for presentation to a core utility where you actually rely on it to summarize your missed meetings or draft your weekly reports.
Okay, so the revenue is real and the usage is incredibly sticky. But if we dig into the earnings transcript, this high usage is actually forcing a massive shift in how Microsoft bills its customers.
Yes, this is a huge pivot.
We really need to talk about the business model itself because they are transitioning from a traditional per-seat, flat-fee licensing model to what they call a seats-plus consumption model.
And this represents perhaps the most profound structural change in the software industry right now. And it is entirely driven by the rise of what Microsoft calls agentic AI.
Agentic AI. Okay, let's break that down because it sounds like something from a sci-fi novel.
It does, yeah.
Up until recently, most of us thought of AI as a very smart, synchronous chatbot. You type a prompt into a text box, you wait 5 seconds, and it gives you an answer. You are basically there holding its hand the entire time. Agentic AI is functionally different under the hood, isn't it?
Fundamentally different. Agentic AI refers to AI agents executing long-running asynchronous tasks. You aren't just asking it a question, you are delegating a multi-step workflow.
So it's working on its own.
Right. Instead of a single text prediction, the AI is running a continuous loop. It checks a database, analyzes the information, decides on the next step, interacts with another software API, and then maybe reports back to you hours later.
So it's not a digital assistant answering the bell. It's an autonomous coworker.
Yes. For example, Microsoft highlighted their LinkedIn talent solutions in the call. They have AI agents that are automatically sourcing candidates, screening inbound resumes against specific criteria, and drafting personalized outreach messages.
All while the human recruiter is completely offline or doing something else.
Exactly.
So if these agents are running 24/7 in the background, a flat $30 monthly fee just doesn't make sense anymore. I mean, if my AI agent is doing the equivalent of 40 hours of complex data processing a week, Microsoft has to be bleeding compute costs to power that. How are they restructuring the billing?
They are moving to seats plus consumption. You pay the base fee, but then you pay for the computing power the AI actually uses, and the basic unit of currency for that computing power is the token.
Okay, let's clarify what a token is for a listener who might not be deep into machine learning. Are we talking about like a blockchain token?
No, completely different concept. In large language models, a token is essentially a piece of a word. It's how the AI reads and generates text.
Okay, so a short word might be 1 token, a long word might be 3.
Right. So when an agentic AI is reading a 100-page financial PDF, cross-referencing it with an Excel spreadsheet, and generating a 10-page summary, it is chewing through millions of tokens.
Wow.
And each of those tokens requires a tiny fraction of electrical power and processing time on a physical server.
So to bring in an analogy for you, the listener, think of the new billing model, like a high-end gym membership. The seat is your flat monthly fee just to enter the building and use the basic treadmills. That gets you in the door.
I like that.
But consumption is paying a little extra every single time you hire the premium personal trainer, the AI agent, to do the heavy lifting for you, to spot you, and to design your routine. And actually, GitHub Copilot, their coding assistant, is moving to this usage-based pricing starting June 1st.
The gym analogy works perfectly here, and Microsoft CFO Amy Hood made a very important point about this transition during the call. She noted that in their customer service category, nearly 60% of their service customers are already purchasing usage-based credits.
So they buy the seat, and then they feed the meter by paying per token for the AI to do the work.
Exactly.
But look, if I'm a chief financial officer at a mid-sized company, this concept terrifies me. Doesn't this shift all the financial risk directly onto the customer?
It definitely looks that way at first glance.
Because if an AI gets stuck in a logic loop and queries a database 50,000 times overnight, or an employee just overuses it to do their basic job, couldn't a company's monthly software budget just completely spiral out of control?
It is a highly rational fear, and we have actually seen companies struggle with runaway cloud computing bills in the past for similar reasons. But customers are evaluating this new consumption purely on a return on investment or ROI per token basis.
What does that actually mean in practice, though?
It means the consumption cost of the tokens is being weighed directly against physical operational savings. Take HSBC, the global bank, for example.
Okay.
Microsoft noted they are using pre-built agents within Dynamics 365 to manage customer inquiries. It is reducing their issue resolution time by over 30%.
30% is massive for a call center.
Right. If an AI agent resolves a complex customer service issue 30% faster, the bank will gladly pay a few cents in consumption tokens because it directly and measurably reduces the massive operating expenses of running that call center. The AI token isn't viewed as an IT cost, it's viewed as a margin improver.
Ah, I see. So as long as the AI is demonstrably saving human time or generating revenue, companies will just keep feeding the token meter without complaining.
Exactly. But here is where the tectonic plates really start to shift. That meter requires an unimaginable amount of physical electricity, custom silicon, and steel to run.
Yeah, it's not magic. It lives on a server.
Right. If Microsoft is going to host millions of these autonomous agents working around the clock, their backend needs an upgrade on a scale we have rarely seen in corporate history.
Which brings us to the $190 billion elephant in the room. Let's talk about the physical infrastructure required to keep this consumption model alive.
The headline figure from the CNBC analysis of this earnings report is genuinely jaw-dropping. Microsoft is forecasting $190 billion in capital expenditures, or CapEx, for the 2026 calendar year.
Just to emphasize how astronomical that is, CNBC noted this completely shattered Wall Street's expectation, which was sitting at a mere $154.6 billion.
A mere $154 billion.
Right, and in Q3 alone, their CapEx was $31.9 billion. And for you listening, when we say CapEx in this context, we aren't talking about paying the monthly electric bill for an office building. We are talking about physical capital.
Hard assets.
Yes, this is buying the land, laying thousands of tons of concrete, securing dedicated power grids, installing massive liquid cooling systems, and building the data center from the ground up.
And Amy Hood broke down exactly what that $190 billion power plant looks like. Roughly 2/3 of this massive spend goes to short-lived assets.
So the servers.
Primarily the high-end processing chips, the GPUs and CPUs that actually do the math for the AI tasks. The remaining 1/3 goes to long-lived assets, which are those physical data center buildings designed to last 15 years or more.
But $190 billion in a single year. That is higher than the total gross domestic product of many entire nations. It's more than the Apollo space program cost adjusted for inflation.
It is a staggering amount of money.
Are they just panic buying GPUs from suppliers? Like, what is driving that cost so high so fast?
It looks like an unsustainable spending spree from the outside, but there is a major technical bottleneck causing that number to inflate so dramatically.
It's what analysts are calling the memory crunch.
Right. CNBC highlighted this specific issue. Of that $190 billion forecast, approximately $25 billion is strictly a premium they have to pay due to soaring component memory prices.
Yeah, it's a perfect storm.
We are seeing a massive global AI demand crunch colliding head-on with global supply chain disruptions. Right. To understand the memory crunch, you have to look at how these AI chips are actually built. It's not just the main processor that matters, it's the high bandwidth memory, or HBM, that sits right next to it.
Because the AI has to access the data instantly.
Exactly. AI models need to pull massive amounts of data into the processor instantly. Stacking that specialized memory is incredibly difficult to manufacture.
And when you combine that engineering bottleneck with macroeconomic factors, global supply chain bottlenecks and key shipping lanes, the cost of the hardware required to build these data centers just spikes instantly.
Yes. The physical supply chain simply cannot keep up with the software demand for tokens.
So they are forced to pay a massive premium just to get the parts off the assembly line. But surely a company as smart as Microsoft isn't just going to keep handing $190 billion to third-party chip makers like NVIDIA and AMD forever.
No, they aren't. And what's fascinating about this earnings call is how much emphasis they placed on internal silicon innovation to offset these exact costs.
Building their own chips.
Exactly. They are deploying their own custom-designed chips. Satya Nadella specifically highlighted their Maya 200 AI accelerator, which is now actively live in their massive Iowa and Arizona data centers.
How does their in-house Maya 200 compare to what they were buying on the open market?
Well, it gives them a massive efficiency edge. Nadella stated it improves the number of tokens they can process per dollar by 30% compared to the latest commercial silicon in their fleet.
30%, that's huge.
When you are processing trillions of tokens a day, a 30% efficiency gain is worth billions in saved electricity and hardware costs.
That makes total sense.
They also rolled out their own Cobalt server CPU, which is already running heavy workloads for major enterprise customers like Snowflake and Siemens. So while they are still buying heavily from external partners, they are aggressively building their own internal hardware stack to protect their profit margins from that supply chain crunch.
Okay, so they're spending $190 billion to build the physical body, the data centers, the custom silicon chips, the networking cables. But to protect that physical investment, they have to control the brain that lives inside those servers, right?
Yes, the models themselves.
Because up until now, that brain has been almost entirely reliant on their famous partnership with OpenAI.
This is where Microsoft's strategy gets incredibly sophisticated and, frankly, a bit ruthless. As CNBC reported, the original terms of their partnership with OpenAI have fundamentally changed.
Wait, the sources show Microsoft ended its revenue share payments to OpenAI, and OpenAI's models are no longer exclusive to Microsoft's Azure cloud. Anyone can host an OpenAI model now.
Which shocked a lot of people.
Wait, I have to ask you, doesn't losing exclusivity to OpenAI hurt Microsoft's competitive edge? I mean, if they just spent $190 billion on servers, why on earth would they let other cloud providers host the most famous AI model in the world?
On the surface, losing exclusivity looks like a massive concession. But when you look at the raw data, Microsoft is playing a brilliant long-term infrastructure game. In exchange for dropping exclusivity and the revenue share, Microsoft secured a royalty-free license to OpenAI's frontier model intellectual property all the way through 2032.
So they secured royalty-free IP for the next 6 years.
Exactly. Microsoft has decoupled the underlying AI model from their cloud infrastructure. What they've realized is that the AI model itself, the algorithm, will eventually become a commodity.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, they don't actually care if an enterprise customer wants to use OpenAI or Anthropic or an open source model like Meta's Llama.
Because they want to be the platform, not just the product. You mentioned terms earlier like hyperscaler, foundry, and fabric. For a listener who doesn't build enterprise software for a living, what are those and how do they fit into this strategy?
Sure. A hyperscaler is simply a massive cloud computing provider companies operating at the scale of Microsoft Azure, Amazon Web Services, or Google Cloud. Fabric is Microsoft's unified data lake. It's the highly secure environment where a corporation puts all its messy internal files, emails, and databases. And Foundry is the toolset developers use to build AI applications on top of that data.
Let me try to use a fresh analogy here. So Microsoft's strategy isn't about building the best car. It's about owning the toll road.
Oh, that's a great way to put it.
They're telling companies, we don't care what kind of car you drive. Bring an OpenAI car, bring a Meta car, bring an Anthropic car. But if you want it to access your company's secure data, you have to drive it on our paved highway, our Fabric ecosystem, and you have to pay our compute toll at every exit.
The toll road analogy is spot on. It is all about data gravity. An AI model is utterly useless to a Fortune 500 company without access to their proprietary internal data.
Because the AI needs to know the context of the business.
Right. And Microsoft wants to be the secure vault where all that data lives. If you lock your corporate data into their Fabric ecosystem, you can swap out the AI algorithm whenever you want, but Microsoft still owns the relationship, the data infrastructure, and most importantly, the billing meter.
That makes total sense.
Yeah.
They are capturing the customer at the data layer, not the algorithmic layer. It's like, bring whatever brain you want, but plug it into our nervous system.
And that strategy is clearly working. Nadella noted they now offer the broadest selection of models of any hyperscaler, and over 10,000 customers have used more than one model on their Foundry platform. They are deliberately commoditizing the AI algorithms to drive immense usage of their underlying cloud infrastructure.
Okay, we've talked about record revenues, a brilliant strategic decoupling from OpenAI, and an impenetrable $190 billion infrastructure mode. But it is not all sunshine and roses in Redmond.
No, it's not.
We have to look at the macroeconomic realities and the painful internal restructuring they are quietly undertaking to make all this happen.
Because despite the massive AI growth numbers, the legacy businesses that built Microsoft are actually starting to feel the drag of this transition.
Right. If we look at their more personal computing segment, it was actually down 1% overall. Windows OEM, which is the underlying software, sold to PC manufacturers. That was down 2%. and Xbox content and services dropped 5%.
It's a reflection of a maturing and perhaps even stagnating traditional PC and gaming market. Consumers and businesses are just holding onto their hardware longer. But what's more revealing about Microsoft's internal mindset is what Amy Hood stated regarding their own operations.
What did she say?
She confirmed that Microsoft expects overall headcount to decrease year over year into the next fiscal year as they focus on, quote, agility.
So we have to address this contradiction. They just reported $31.8 billion in net income. The AI business is growing 123%. But prior to this earnings call, their stock was actually down 12% in 2026, and they are actively reducing human headcount. How can you be arguably the most successful technology company on Earth and still be laying people off?
It feels incredibly contradictory, I know, but it's the harsh, inevitable reality of a platform shift. Microsoft is essentially cannibalizing its own legacy structures to feed the AI expansion.
The tectonic plates shifting again.
Yes. The fear driving the stock down earlier in the year, which CNBC analyzed closely, was the concept that AI would eat software.
Eat software. What does that mean?
The theory is that enterprise customers will buy fewer traditional software licenses because autonomous AI agents will simply do the work of several human employees. Investors were terrified that Microsoft's massive $190 billion capital investments wouldn't generate returns fast enough to replace the dying legacy software revenue.
And so the headcount reductions are a way to balance that equation.
Exactly. They are reducing traditional headcount to free up the immense capital required to fund the physical data centers and acquire specialized AI engineering talent.
So they are stripping down the old house to buy the concrete for the new power plant.
That's it. It proves that the transition to the agentic era is incredibly expensive and ruthless. Even if you are the clear market winner, you have to break your own moans to reshape your body for the new environment.
That is a really stark reality. It's not just a growth story. It's a fundamental cellular replacement of a legacy corporation.
And that is exactly why this specific earnings call is so historic. We are watching the pivot happen in real time, backed by billions of dollars in hard capital.
Well, we have covered a massive amount of ground today, from the technical weeds of custom silicon to the macroeconomic forces shaping cloud computing. Can you give the listener a rapid-fire summary of the absolute key takeaways from this deep dive?
Absolutely. If you remember 3 things from this analysis, make it these. First, the AI hype phase is officially over. The reality phase is here. AI is now a highly profitable $37 billion recurring revenue engine with deep daily engagement matching core tools like email.
Incredible. And the second?
Second, the entire software business model is shifting from static, flat-fee licenses to dynamic, usage-based consumption meters driven by autonomous AI agents doing background work.
The seats plus consumption model.
Right. And third, to support this new reality, Microsoft is driving an unprecedented $190 billion physical infrastructure build-out, deploying custom silicon to navigate a global memory supply crunch, and quietly commoditizing AI models to ensure they remain the indispensable toll road of the future.
It really is a masterclass in corporate pivoting, even with the internal growing pains of layoffs and legacy stagnation. But I want to leave you, the listener, with a final thought to mull over as you go about your day. We spent a lot of time talking about how software is shifting from a static tool like a hammer you pick up when you need it to an active agent that does complex work for you asynchronously.
Right, the autonomous coworker, not the digital tool.
Exactly. And it's built purely by how much computing power it consumes while you sleep. So if that's the reality of the software market today, what happens to the traditional human corporate hierarchy when your most productive, fastest, and most reliable employee is actually a software algorithm running on a custom silicon server in an Arizona data center?
That is a profound question.
How do you manage a team where the heavy lifters don't sleep, don't ask for a raise, but they do charge your department a fraction of a cent per token?
That is the defining organizational question every manager, director, and executive is going to have to answer very soon.
The tectonic plates are definitely moving, and we are all just trying to keep our balance. Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into the numbers, the infrastructure, and the narratives shaping our technological future. Stay curious, keep questioning the consensus, and we'll catch you on the next deep dive.